they are ramping up the censorship already. The FBI came after the Libertarian Party's Facebook page.
Whoa, what?
Why?
Oh, yes.
What did they say?
They told us that we had been compromised by a hostile foreign government. So I filed a FOIA request immediately. This happened right before the convention. I filed a FOIA request and they came back and said, no, you don't get any documentation beyond what we've said because you're still under investigation. This is not a joke. I've had 2 calls with the FBI, so has the party's attorney.
And so what's happened with the Facebook page in the meantime?
Nothing right now.
So you still have control of it?
Technically, we went in and I had staff call and get on the phone with Facebook's IT support. The access logs have all been wiped, so we can't see who's logged in and logged out. And
hostile foreign power.
When we pressed and said, we need to know who's logged in and out, we're changing our passwords and doing all of our IT safety checks, they said, talk to the FBI, my friend.
And the FBI said, we'll tell you nothing because we're the government and trust us.
Correct.
Yeah, it's FBI. What do you think? We're Putin supporters? That was like 2 years ago. We're Hamas supporters now.
Right.
Keep up.
So they are definitely cracking down.
That's big news.
I love that the Libertarians are...
Has this been publicized?
It's been yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
I talked to some friends on the Trump team, and they said you have to go public with it. It's the only way to protect yourself is to go public, or they're going to try to shut you down. Mm-hmm. They know,
and they're gonna claim in November the Libertarian Party was compromised by Russia and helped Trump win.
Yes, they're trying. They're trying already to shut us up.
I love that the idea would be that the anti-government party was working with somebody else's government.
Right.
Like, I don't think they totally know who
that's the
are.
funny thing, by the way. I mean, like the joke I was making, but like how much I've just gotten called like you must be a Putin supporter, a Hamas supporter, or whatever, and you're like, I don't have to support a foreign government to hate my own government. Like I could just be against. Like what the criminals in D.C. do. It doesn't mean I'm for that any more than I was for Saddam Hussein.
It just bums me out because America's like so awesome, but we have this like, it's like a brain slug attached to our head.
Yes.
Yeah. We can't get off. You know what I mean?
Well, look, I mean, there's something about that though, right? That it's like, it's ultimately why a lot of libertarians embrace anarchism. It's that there's this problem that we kind of found through running the experiment of the United States of America, right? Where the whole story is that America is the smallest, most limited, constitutionally constricted government of all time. And this produces the wealthiest society that's ever existed. And then, because the society is so wealthy, the government can just leech right off that. And then now, at this point, we have the biggest government in the history of the world.
It's like an elephant, and I just feel like I'm following it with a shovel. That is the role of the LP in this election.
There's a video, I don't know if you've ever seen, but you'll want to share with the entirety of the Libertarian Party, where this guy, was it Gray Plays Games or whatever? Serge, do you know this one? There's a guy who plays video games, and there's a game, I think it's called City State. It's been a while since we talked about this. And it's similar to Civilization. You build a city-state. You determine if you want high taxes or low taxes, high policing, low policing. And so he decides to do a playthrough where he's like, I am going to make just total chaos. No government, no taxes, nothing. People can do whatever they want. I don't care. It's going to be a disaster. And as he's playing it, what do you think happened?
I don't know. Did it work out great?
Ski resorts popping up everywhere,
Awesome
skyscrapers.
place.
He was like, what's happening? There's no poor people. There's no crime. Oh my God. And this video went massively viral. He thought by not having government, it would be crime and chaos and disaster.
Max.
And then he's like, I'm building another ski resort. And there's just building mountains and ski resorts everywhere. Everyone's living in just pure wealth.
Well,
I mean,
funny. Look, dude, there's the amount, and this is kind of like what we were getting at before, even if there are some services that the government provides, which are, and like, I agree with you, like there are some services, particularly my local government provides, that are like, they're okay. They're fine. They're never great, but they're okay. You know what I mean? But for how much it costs you, like the trade-off is not even close. And it's when you really start to scale it up and think about it, it is, I mean, the amount of wealth that is extracted from the productive sectors of society into literally blowing up a bridge to then rebuild the bridge in Damascus or in, maybe not in Damascus, but in wherever, Fallujah or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just wasted resources. It's like we would be so infinitely more wealthy than we are as a
We would
society
have
if it
so
wasn't for
many
this.
ski resorts.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of ski resorts.
I do want to loop back to the FBI story because I think this should be like massively circulated among libertarians and Trump supporters, especially with the nomination of Chase Oliver,
Yep.
who is deeply unpopular with, I would assume, is the majority of the Libertarian Party who voted
Correct.
Mises Caucus,
Correct.
will pull votes from Joe Biden.
100% he will. Very happy.
This is big, and I think we need to stress this and make sure everybody puts a sticky note because I think the play is going to be that the Libertarian Party was compromised to put a progressive in who would pull votes from Biden as a spoiler candidate, and Russia got...
They're going after the Libertarian Party already. They're going after the Green Party too. So we got to defend Jill Stein. Defend Jill Stein because she's going to pull from Biden too because she's good on Gaza. We got to defend all these guys.
Wow. And if Biden ends up winning, they'll maintain that narrative and try and use this against third parties to
absolutely.
Increase barriers to entry.
Absolutely.
I would not be surprised if they make a move where they're like, this is not a two-party. We're not, it's not intentionally two-party, but because of Russian interference, these third parties need to be vetted by the FBI.
Absolutely. They're
Democracy.
And I mean, it really is interesting. Kennedy is pulling more from Biden too. And I think that people were nervous at first that he would not be, but he is. There's a lot of Democrats who want pandemic amnesty and a return to sanity, whatever that means in their minds. So they think that that's Kennedy. Let's just go back to 2012 era. Old school Democrats. Apparently old school is 12 years ago.
But you know what the argument there was? There was a quick-witted argument from a leftist when someone said, I'm just a Democrat from 10 years ago. And they were like, that's like saying like everyone in the country was pro-segregation until 10 years later in the 1950s. So the argument from progressives is, yes, quite literally. You are a Democrat from 10 years ago. That's what being conservative is.
Yeah.
You're holding on to the old values that we've moved on from.
That's also what being a conservative is I'm a Democrat from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's what it has been my entire life. I mean, look,
right.
even Donald Trump is essentially, he's a liberal from when I was a kid. I mean, like, that's
It's
like what he
crazy.
is.
A New York
it's not like a New York liberal. I mean, that's a New York Democrat. That's what he was and what he always has been and kind of still is.
A 90s Democrat, to be like very specific.
Not from 10 years ago, from 30 years ago. Fine. But like, I do think a lot of times, especially it's because we all create our own little bubbles these days, and we all are in a bubble of like talking about politics all the time and hyper focusing on it. And it's very easy to get removed from the fact that that is just not the reality for 95% of voters. And 95% of voters just don't think about this as much as we do. And I'm not like blaming them for that. I don't know. This happens to be our jobs. That's not most people's jobs. And so they focus on their life. They got families and stuff.
You can only have so much capacity.
Like if you want to explain why Bobby is doing so well with Democratic voters, I do think a lot of it comes down to the fact that there's a whole lot of Democratic voters who go, I think the Democrats have gone a little bit crazy as of late, and they are attached to that name. People do not understand how much value that name still holds
lot of value.
for so many Democratic voters.
I got an interesting little point to add to that, wrap up this segment, though, is after every election, viewership and revenue on political shows drops dramatically for obvious reasons. People are tired, they're burned out, and they're just like, I'm over it, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Advertising, so you get politicians are dumping money into ad campaigns, so revenue starts going way, way up. And by the end of this year, ad rates for political channels will be like 2 or 3 times higher than the average. Everyone else will get a little bump as well because it's multi-billion dollars. The question then becomes, as we as a company are budgeting out for how many people we can hire, what we can build, we got to make sure that we have enough money left over. And so the concern is, well, don't forget, come December, we are going to see, December on presidential election cycles is a massive burst of money. Every December, companies will dump their advertising budgets. They get a budget for the year or for the quarter, and they say, if we don't spend it now, we're going to lose it. You're better off just spending it. So they do. And then ad rates go through the roof. Come January, budgets are not set, and so ad rates collapse. Now the question is, January 2025, will ad rates collapse or will they skyrocket? Because it won't be in the middle. Assuming what happens after this election is bedlam, viewership on political channels will go through the roof. After 2021, we actually had a couple months where it was nuts. Viewership was insane because of January 6th and all these things. So,
and just contesting the election in general,
all
and
of
how
that.
Yeah.
It was wild. So we're actually now having the conversation of internally as a business, do we prepare for a downturn?
Interesting.
Or do we actually prepare for an upswing?
Crazy upswing.
We're gonna treat it like a downturn's coming because we don't want to get into a position.
Yeah,
where
better better to prepare for that. But if I had to bet, I mean, there's so many possibilities still. There's so much to come, but I would not be surprised if it's another one like last time where there's, look,
tenfold.
Well, I think you're almost at a point, like in the same way, I think this was true in 2020. No matter which side loses, they're not going to see it as legitimate. And that's a point that we've gotten to, that it's almost like the people, particularly people who hate Donald Trump, they want to go like, oh my God, he denied the results of an election. This is so crazy. This is totally different than what Hillary Clinton and Al Gore did or whatever, which it isn't really, but whatever. They want to say
it's to them because he's a bad guy.
Right,
so
right.
Everything
So
he does is wrong, and it's nothing like anything they would do.
But the truth is that if you just looked at the year of 2020 and you went, wait a minute, so they locked down the country, they had the largest transfer of wealth from working Americans to the billionaire class in human history. Then there's this mass censorship campaign where anybody who's against the insanity is losing their ability to speak. Then they overhaul the way you do voting for the first time ever, that you don't even have to show up to the polls and it's not verified and all of this. You just look at those fundamentals, you go, yeah. Obviously, they were never going to trust this thing. And I think that's the same now, but for both sides. You know, it's like, I think if Donald Trump wins, the Democrats are going to think it's illegitimate. If Biden or whoever it is wins, the Trump supporters are going to say it's illegitimate. And I just think this circus is going to continue on, would be my guess.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.